So happy wheel turning day, and this talk has very little to do with that topic, but it does have a orientation to it that I hope is helpful. So I've been thinking lately about what we can learn from our dear pets, and we have 4 kitties here. And I've learned over the years that they are a barometer for our spiritual practice, or a barometer for my spiritual practice. So who in this room has control issues? So for the past 5 years, one of the kitties has been the focal point of my attention. I'm not sure why. I guess it's a karmic connection from the past. But we have this procedure where we put cats on leashes. Now that sounds like something that should be mutually exclusive, cats on a leash. But this is what we do because we want to protect them from killing, which is what they're just programmed to do. And it keeps them safe from predators like owls and everything else if they run away. So I've discovered I've had huge control issues in this regard and many other places in my life, because every day for the past 5 years we go out for a walk. But in the case of Upeka, our Siamese kitty, it is not a walk. And so for a number of years I would go outside expecting a walk, telling him that we're going for a walk, and giving some nudges, and it's just not happening. So I've given up, but I could see my controlling mind because, I know what is good for him. He's a person. I know what's good for him. And so what we do instead is we go outside and he sniffs everything. So it's a very slow walk. It's meditative for sure, but it's very slow. And I had to get over my mind that was screaming, like, we have to walk. We have to go around the Buddha house, and this is how you're going to accumulate merit. So I could see that I had to give that one up, and at a certain point, I just pick him up. He's 12.5 pounds. So if you have issues about osteoporosis, this is a great workout to have a heavier kitty, and I just pack him around the Buddha house, and he gets to hear a mantra. So that's one place where I can see that my practice needs some work. Now, have you ever had days where you're sure that you're lacking any capacity for compassion for others? Oh, not so many hands. Well, good for you. So if you have a cat or a pet or a parrot or anything, a little animal, just looking at the situation that they're in 24/7. Lately with this heat, my heart has gone out to Upeka so often, and all our kitties and all life around here, because he's crying. And so, like any parent with a child, I'm sure that at a certain point you can figure out what's going on with your child, and eventually they have language, or they don't. But with Upeka, I don't know what's wrong. And so we'll have a little snack. I'll direct him to the water bowl. I will pick him up and hold him for a few minutes. But if he doesn't want to be held, as you know with cats, that's just not going to work. And he doesn't know what he wants. All he can tell me is in his meowing language that I think he thinks that the solution is food. So what he does when he cries is he goes to the cupboard where the food is. And he would have been just fed. So he's got a full tummy, he's had water, he's had affection. There's 20 people here who dote on him. And he can't tell me what's wrong. And that's just heartbreaking. And then, of course, in the old days when we had teachings in Ananda, the kitties would get teachings multiple times a week. And Upeka and our dear animal friends cannot put these teachings into effect. They can't understand them. He doesn't realize that his impulse to kill is really a negative thing. We talk every day about how that little butterfly wants to stay alive, just like he does, or whatever is jumping in the grass, and he can't hang on to it. He just can't. And so if you're feeling like you're lacking compassion, just hang around, an animal and just look at what they're capable of, and it will really open your heart. Do you have a problem with giving advice when it's not requested or asked for? So when my attempts to console him fail, then my last resort is I pick him up and I put him in his little condo. So we have little outside condos here for the kitties. It's a little cage outside, which he normally loves. But again, you know, I'm thinking that I know what is good for him and this will be what he needs. And like any cat, you can't tell a cat what to do. So he will go outside, but then I will turn around and he'll be back in my office in a second. That's not what he wanted. And so like any human being that I give advice to that has been requested, it's much the same thing, except, you know, they don't quietly leave their condo. There's usually some other exchange that makes things much more complicated. So I'm not going to have this as being a long talk today. There's just many things that I can see that our interactions with animals are great barometers for our practice. And you may say, well, you know, at this point in my life, I've been through COVID, I've lost my job, I can't afford an animal. And that is totally understandable. They do incur expenses, and we have kind friends here who offer their food and offer their medical care, and they're very well cared for. But what you could do is, if you have an animal shelter or some kind of animal thing in your city or town, you could go there and volunteer and spend some time helping the animals who would love your attention. And then, of course, this is fantastic for getting us out of our self-centered thought that just spins and complains and whatever your self-centered mind does. And by directing our attention to being in the animal realm, it is fantastic medicine. And then who else here is always seeking praise and recognition for your good deeds? Okay, so you're not going to get it from a cat, I can tell you. It just doesn't happen. Most animals, well, I think maybe dogs might be able to express it somewhat. And on a good day, Upeka is very, very affectionate. There's no question that he appreciates this. But in general, you know, you're not going to get the feedback that you're desperately seeking. And so be content with giving. And your mind will be very happy. And so will your dearly beloved little friend.